Someone got in it.
That's where this building was. That's where this building was. This building eventually wound up while keeping the Dundee Road as a farmhouse. That's when my dad went to school.
Oh, yes.
You know Mary.
Sure. Really?
Oh, I see.
Slides like when they close one of those pyramids.
Recess is over. Let's get out here and get the flag.
You and the band here would have had a riot.
Bell, courtesy of my sister Mary Vanderveen. She got it from my wife's father, Henry Potter.
Oh, I'm surprised. That Northbrook sweater is
My name is Don Hintz, who with my wife Gladys were graduates of the first four-year graduating class of Northbrook High School, the class of 1939. Village President Dick Falcone was originally scheduled to open this ceremony, but he had a conflict in his busy schedule, so he has asked one of the village trustees to speak on his behalf. This man has served as a village trustee since April of 1983 and was involved during the time Northbrook School was being converted to Crestwood Place. To officially welcome you to this dedication and give us a little background on this project, it's my pleasure to introduce Trustee Sherwin Zeitlin to the Village of Northbrook. Sherwin?
Thank you, Don. Dick sends his regrets. Unfortunately, he's at Iowa State taking his son back to school. We have two other members of the Board of Trustees here, Troy Miller and Bob Jager. We certainly are very pleased to see so many of you here. We welcome you. It's always nice to see people who went to school here back again. And it's a pleasure to address you. The concept of a senior citizens housing facility stretches back over 10 years to January of 1976. At that time, our Human Relations Commission completed a study which indicated the need for at least 100 senior apartment units. They thought such a facility should be built or constructed and developed in the downtown area that would provide ready access to the senior residents to the village green, downtown shopping, the library, churches, and so forth. The village struggled with the concept and in fact was working with private developers from 76 through 1979. It looked, in fact, like a 115-unit project would be developed by a private developer. But for various reasons, that developer backed off. At about the same time, District 28 had come to the realization that with the maturing population in its district and with the availability of its other structures, that the existence of the Northbrook School, then known as Crestwood, would be closed. With the encouragement of a citizens group at that time, which pointed out the desirability of the Crestwood property, the Northbrook School building, as a site for senior housing, the village bit the bullet and purchased this piece of land, the building on it. Crestwood site presented a unique opportunity. It was perhaps the last open area available in or around our central business district, but it represented more. It was a historical landmark. The Northbrook School had played such an important part in the life of so many members of our community. We had the possibility of preserving that landmark, and importantly, to use the Northbrook School facility, which had served youth for so long, but which had in turn grown old and perhaps outgrown its usefulness as a school to serve our older population. So we went out and took proposals to the private sector. We actually asked for bids, in essence. We negotiated for quite a while with a company called Atrium Associates. You may have remember reading about all that in the newspapers. But eventually they withdrew because they were relying on federal funding. And the funding, of course, dried up. So we bit the bullet again. We made the decision to develop this senior housing project on a local basis. Parenthetically, I'd like to point out it is the only locally developed senior housing project in the Midwest. In the fall of 1982, we worked on, and in December of that year, issued a $5.7 million bond issue to finance this project. Part of the money, of course, was used to buy the land and the building, but some $5 million went into the planning and construction of the project. The principal feature, of course, was the preservation of the Northbrook School structure. Some part of it was, of course, lost. Our consultants and the architects and engineers told us that the 1927 addition for the gymnasium was unusable in a rehab project, so that went. But most of the rest remains. Let me say I believe that the preservation of the Northbrook School building was the right thing to do. It was probably more expensive than simply bringing the wrecking ball in and starting from the ground up. Because as you may know, when you do rehab work, you never know what you find. But there were more important goals here. Our community dates back to the 1830s. The Northbrook School building dates back to 1899. It is an important piece of the heritage of this community. It is something our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren can look to and get a flavor of our community. I am pleased that we did it. In any event, the most satisfying feature of this is that the most desirable and the most beautiful apartments are in the old structure. It doesn't quite look the same as it did, but it's basically the same structure. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Northbrook on the 12th day of August 1986 adopted a resolution identifying this site as the original site of Northbrook School and directing a historical marker to be designed to include 3 time capsules designated as the Northbrook School, Northbrook Historical Society, and the Village of Northbrook time capsules, and asking representatives of each of those organizations to contribute memorabilia for inclusion in the time capsules. Section 1 of the resolution asks that the time capsules be sealed and encapsulated in this historical marker at a dedication to be held this morning, and that those time capsules be opened on August 24th, 2036. That is 50 years from now. That's what we're about. Well, thank you very much for all coming, and look forward to talking.
Thank you, Sherwin. I hope you'll send us all an invitation. It was through the cooperation of the Senior Citizens Housing Commission that this historical marker we are dedicating today is located on this, the former site of Northbrook School. A retired member of the commission who worked long and hard on obtaining approval of this project is your friend and mine. He was our friendly service station proprietor when there really was such a thing as service. He was our friendly shoe store proprietor when our children were attending Northbrook School. And he was Mr. Little League when that activity was in its infancy in Northbrook. May I introduce none other than our friend, Walter Doc O'Neill.
Ready for a long speech? The Senior Citizens Housing Commission is very happy and proud that the Historical Society chose this site to put their marker on. This site, the Senior Housing Commission thought most desirable. By the way, there are 2 graduates of this school in the housing complex now. They are Florence Moore Zackel, 1939, and Joe Orlandini, 1940. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Now to give us a little background on the school we thought we knew so well, on behalf of the all-time student body and the all-time faculty of Northbrook High School, an individual that hardly needs an introduction to former students of Northbrook High School or residents of our community. Many of us remember him as our teacher, our coach, or our principal. He served for over 21 years at the school we are commemorating today. It's a real pleasure to introduce Mr. W. Ray Etherton. Ray?
Thank you, Don, members of the village board, Historical Society, and friends of the Northbrook High School, the Northbrook School as a whole. Some of you may not know that Schermerville had 3 school buildings. The first was located on Waukegan Road, over back of where the Swin Bicycle Shop is located now. That was built and dedicated to the district by Mr. Joel Sherman, the first white resident in this area. The second building was a 2-room school, 1 room up, 1 room down. And that was just across the street from this school, which is now Forest Preserve. Then in 1910, they came here and built the nice red brick 4-room school. Schermerville School was on that block that you see here now. Then in 1922, we changed the name from Schermerville to Northbrook. That became actually official in 1923. And so they changed the name from Schermerville School to Northbrook School. We're not quite sure how they got the Schermerville off. Chiseled it, sanded it, or some way or other. But we know that it must have come out of there some way or other, because there's a little edge all around the edge there that shows that it's indented underneath there. 1923-24 was the first school year for the Northbrook School. And there are 3 people here present who graduated in that 8th grade in 1924. Esther Booker Lutz, and Bill Lutz. They've been going together a long time. And Catherine Cameron. I don't know whether she's here or not. Is she? In 1928, a group of young men who wanted to play basketball, fellas in their late teens, early 20s, convinced the board of directors that there should be a gym here. And so in 1929, the gym was built. Mr. Jock McLaughlin, Ed Landwehr, and Leland Owens board of directors that you'll find on the headstone that we have in the historical building today. Now, before 1930, there was never a high school anywhere in Northfield Township. All the pupils who wanted to go to high school either had to go to New Trier or Holland Park or get on a train and go down to Carl Schurz. Now, most of them, of course, went to New Trier and Holland Park. There was a non-high school board that collected a tax, and they were supposed to pay the tuition of any person that wanted to go to high school to any high school they wished to attend. In 1928, New Trier in Highland Park notified the non-high school board that they were going to raise the tuition from $200 to $250. Non-high school board said, we won't pay it. These high schools said, well, they won't take any students from Northfield Township then. So the board of directors in District 28 decided that they would add the 9th and the 10th grade. And to do that, they brought in Norman Watson to be superintendent. High school to start the fall of 1930. I happened to be the first teacher that they employed from outside to come in and teach in that high school. The first day, 7 young people came and said, we're juniors. If you don't have a 3rd year, we won't have any place to go to school. So that night the board had a meeting, and the 2nd day of school we had a 3-year high school. And that continued until 1937. We had a referendum to establish a district 4-year high school. I don't want to compete with that. Difference as far as the high school and the operation was concerned was that now District 28 had to pay for the education of all the high school pupils that lived in District 28. We collect the non-high school money for all those people who were coming from Glenview and Wheeling and the countryside in between. But that was all right. It made enough money to operate a school such as District 28 could never have operated. We provided laboratory sciences, languages, home economics, industrial arts, physical education, band, choral music. They couldn't have afforded that in this district at that time without all that non-high school money coming in. Well, this 4-year high school continued then all the way through until the last class, 1952. The non-high school board, however, was still paying tuition only for those people who lived in the area outside of District 28. To establish a high school, township high school district. And that passed. There was a new high school, township high school board elected, and they chose Dr. Watson to be the superintendent of that high school district. And so District 28 hired a new superintendent to be district superintendent in the elementary school. And the high school district then made me principal of the high school so that we could run. Dr. Watson had to be so busy working on this new high school, he didn't have time to too much within the interior of the school. But because of all the litigation on sites and boundary lines, it took 7 years in order to get that Glenbrook High School built. And this school was growing all the time. The only other school in the town that came about was in 1949. That was the Greenbrier School. The year before that, there were 735 children in this building, from kindergarten through grade 12. And so, 1 year before they were ready to go into Glenbrook, the elementary district says we cannot accommodate the high school any longer. And therefore, they had to farm out all the high school children to Holland Park, Deerfield, New Trier, Palatine, Arlington Heights, wherever they could get them in. Most of them went to Palatine. And so that one class sometimes feel that they're sort of within no man's land because they didn't graduate from Northbrook, they didn't graduate from Glenbrook, they were graduate from wherever high school they happened to be attending. Now, to the village board, we certainly want to, as I represent the students and teachers, want to thank you for helping to preserve this building and to add to it in such a harmonious way so that it will serve in the future generations to come. And to the board and to the Historical Society, thank you also for erecting this monument so that as people go by, they can say to their children, their grandchildren, that's where your grandpa went to school. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ray. You've all heard about the 3 time capsules being enclosed in this marker, and many of you have been up here and looked at the 2 that are already in there. 3 individuals have shared in the responsibility of that effort. They are Louis Warehane of the class of 1925. Louis, raise your hand. Emil Booker of the class of 1934. Emil. Emil's company fabricated these stainless steel time capsules. Aren't they beautiful? And Lee Schinweber of the class of 1936. I'm going to ask Lee to tell us a little about getting the time capsules made and the contents of each, while Louis and Emil seal the last capsule and lower it into place in the marker. Please welcome a fellow student, Lee Schinweber. Lee, before you start, this is the design book that we had for the marker. It's got everything from Bob Wedaw's letter to the Historical Society asking for a suggested site for the marker, or suggested thing to do with the stones, to the plans, to the quotations on the stones, to the contract for the bricklayer and everything. And we're going to put this in the marker right now. Go ahead.
Well, as Don said, the committee was myself, Louis Warehane, and Don Hintz. And I want to thank Emil Booker for these donation of these boxes. It's been a long process getting these boxes made and getting them filled. The 3 boxes, there is about 300 and some odd items in the boxes. Somebody asked me today what's in the boxes. I said, well, there's 300 items. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what's all in there. Some of the things, there's transcripts of the 1870 census of Northfield Township, 1880 census, 1900 census, and 1910 census in Northbrook. There's also a football sweater that was given to Del Rose now in 1952. A basketball sweater that Joe Orlandini got in 1940, I believe. Several end letters that students have earned from basketball, golf, football, everything. Even a GAA letter, the Girls Athletic Association letter. There's about, I think, 100 or 110 issues of Northbrook Times. The annuals of every annual from 1931 through 1952. I was able to get the last one last week, about a week ago. And there is also the first one from Glenbrook North, which included a lot of the students that went to Northbrook School. There's diplomas, rings, report cards. Some of them are not so good. And there's also the pictures of graduating class from 1924, 1925, and last night I got one from 1929. There's also 33, there's 32, so many 8th grade graduation pictures and high school graduations. I'm glad to have my living room back. My living room has been my workhouse for all this stuff. Everything has been collected in my living room. Now I got a clean house. Doggone it! Got no excuse to have a messy house anymore.
Am I in your way?
Photographers, man your guns. Here's the moment of putting in the Northbrook High School capsule into the market.
You guys should let some young fellas do that, Louis. There we go.
Thanks a lot, fellas. You've all witnessed the placement of the last time capsule. These 3 stones at the bottom here, which say Northbrook School, originally said Schermerville School. In fact, Lee told me this morning, if you look closely, you can probably see the faint shadow of an S over there from Schermerville. As Ray Etherton told us, in 1923, it was necessary to erase Schermerville School and chisel in Northbrook School when the village changed its name. After its 68 years as a school ended in 1979, the building stood empty and fell victim to considerable vandalism for several years. It was about to be demolished when the village board finally decided that it could be converted to a senior citizen housing center, which is now named Crestwood Place. Charles, maybe you want to start with your mortar. Through the foresight of the village officials, these 3 stones were removed from the south facade up there, about where that air conditioner is, up in the big square window, and saved from the wrecking ball. Jim Reynolds and the Public Works Department rescued them and put them in safe storage out at the Public Works warehouse. In April of 1985, Bob Weedaw, the village manager, wrote to Barbara Nolan, president of the Historical Society, asking for suggestions on how to preserve these 3 big stones. She appointed 3 members of the Historical Society board who were ex-students of the school as a committee to come up with recommendations. They were Louis Warehane, Lee Schindler, and myself. We came up with the idea of a marker, and since it was so large because of the size of the stones, we automatically had space for the time capsules inside. The design involves some new cut stones, as you can see. Original site of 1911, a Northbrook Historical Society historical marker, 1979. And later on, if you walk around the back, it says erected by the village of Northbrook, and something else that I forget. In any event, we suggested that the Historical Society pay the cost of these stones, which, if you can believe it, came to $1,800. I'm pleased to report that several of you here today have responded with some donations to help the Historical Society defray some of that cost. And of course, any more would be welcome. All right, the rest is history. The Senior Citizen Housing Commission and the Village Board approved the concept and this location for the marker. I would like to thank both boards, as well as Doc O'Neill, who was then in charge of the Grounds Committee for the Housing Commission, as well as Bob Weedaw, Village Manager, for their cooperation. In May of this year, the Village Board approved the project, and in June, the Public Works Department began construction. Paul Oshefka hauled the cut stones from the stone cutter. Gary Beater, at the controls of the village backhoe, dug the hole for the foundation. And believe me, it'll stand. There's a 20-inch footing, and on top of that, about a 5-foot foundation. Paul Hallen, of the class of 45, was contracted to pour the footing and the foundation. Alf Sojan, who you see up here wielding the trowel, a Northbrook stone mason, contracted to do the brickwork and to set the stones with the help of the Public Works Department. It was Gary Beater, Calvin Tyndall, with the help of the village backhoe, who helped Alf set the two 1,100-pound stones on either end and a 1,450-pound stone in the center that spell out Northbrook School. When it came to these little capstones, which only weigh 690 pounds, it was a higher lift. So Jim Reynolds sent Dave Bouchard with the cherry picker, thing that they go up and prune trees with. And with the help of Kevin Mack, Gary, Cal, and Alf, jockeyed those into place. And you're going to see them lower the last one down in place in just a minute. I built a house and a factory in my time, but I've never before experienced the kind of cooperation I had from these people in the Public Works Department in putting up this marker. I think we should give them all a big hand right now. As Sherwin Zeitman told you, on the 4th of August and the 12th of August, the Historical Society and the Village Board respectively passed resolutions suggesting that this marker be opened on or about August 24th, 2036, and that the time capsules be opened and the contents published in the appropriate media of the time for the benefit of the village residents as a historical record of their heritage. Being a part of the Historical Society now, I know that when we come on an old newspaper that's 50, 60, 70 years old, it's great to look through it and see the ads. Colby Furniture over here advertised a coffee table for $10.98. You can get the same one today for about $289. With that history and the desired future of the historical marker behind us, let us proceed with placing the final capstone in place, where we hope it will remain for the next 50 years. Our crew ready? Our photographers ready? As you can see, that's not made of styrofoam. They made it. You can imagine what it was with a 1,450 pound, more than twice as much as that one weighed. This center one that says H. Brook SC. While Alf is bordering up the works there, I have a couple of announcements I'd like to make. Some of you who have been away from Northbrook for 10 years or more may not know that we have an active historical society in Northbrook. And by special arrangement, it's going to be open this morning until noon, right after this ceremony. For those of you who don't know, it's located down in the Village Green Park, right across the street from St. Norbert's Church. So you're welcome to come down there. We have restored the second floor as an 1890s Schermerville home. You'll recognize the building as the old Bartlemy Tavern that used to be on the corner up here. We moved it down there in 1974. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Chief Arthur Schmidt, the class of '53, and the members of his police department for our traffic control this morning. I'd like to thank Phil Dykey of the Northbrook Trust and Savings Bank for the use of their parking lot this morning. I'd like to thank Mike Beverly, maintenance man at Crestwood Place, and Mrs. Wenzel for the use of her electricity, which comes right from the corner window over there. Some of us knew that as our manual training shop. And of course, members of the Northbrook High School Alumni Association are reminded of brunch, which gets underway at 11 a.m. So back to the dedication. This, the first historical marker, sponsored in part by the Northbrook Historical Society, is to identify the site of the building which has served as a center of learning for the young people of Schermerville and Northbrook longer than any other such building in Northfield Township. We dedicate this marker in the memory of each student, faculty member, custodian, bus driver, administrator, and Board of Education member, whoever attended or served Northbrook School. May the building continue to serve as a home for our senior citizens, and may this marker suitably identify the site of our school for generations to come. Again, our thanks to all who played a part in this effort, and to all of you who have been present to witness this dedication. Thank you very much.
In winter we spend in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I remember her.
This is Florence Moore from used to be on Waller Avenue. And her sister was two more girls lived there.
Oh,
I got my youngest daughter here. We're going to get a picture of me and my youngest daughter because we both went here. A little bit of...
Well, thank you. I'll tell you guys again.
There's so many of them that I haven't seen. Yeah, no, I think I remember. Hello, Danny.